obviously this, me and Susie come in, we represent, not just me and Susie, but,
6 of us.
our whole family. Me and Susie, Rachel, Josh, Rebecca, and Jonathan. We're fully united and completely in one accord with this. And Mom, first of all, I want to declare my unconditional love to you, from the very beginning. Ever since Dad passed, I've been there for you. I've spent hours and hours to take care of you and to look out for you. And this is nothing but more of an extension of that. It is just my pure love for you, to look out for you. And that's what the word says. In James 1:27, it says, pure and undefiled religion before God and the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their trouble and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. So that's what we're doing. So we'll love you unconditionally, no matter what happens. And we'll always be there for you, no matter what. So, all six of us, don't feel at peace about this relationship with Doug. As we made clear with Jimmy our last meeting.
Should I respond to each one or let him get all the way through? Because if he starts going through all the way, I kind of want to.
Yeah, no, we can process. Okay. Let's just read one. He made points. So when he reads point 1.
Yeah, so.
These are the reasons why.
Yeah, so let's just start from the beginning. So Doug, being a counselor, should know not to have, heavy communication with a grieving widow, forming that emotional bond. We saw, from the jump, the text that he started sending you in June, these long prayers, which completely, enraptured you.
Prayers didn't start in June. He did send me prayers in June, and the way it started was, and this would be the best way, just kind of start at the beginning. Actually, Susie was the first one to start the whole thing. She was very excited when I told her that he had called me and said that he was divorced. He's giving me a courtesy call because he shows back on Daystar. And I was like,
Can we back up even a little further than that? Because I think it'd be good for you to know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So first of all, we've known each other for a very long time. Okay,
Oh yeah, you've been on Daystar for many years.
And so when I was going through the divorce process, I already filed for divorce. Now for 20 plus years, I wanted to do a show on Daystar. Okay, and the board said, don't you fund it. I'm going to do it. Okay. So I went on for that for years. And after I filed, I had a guy give me $400,000. Then about a week and a half later, I had someone give me $250,000 out of the blue. Okay. So I'm like, okay, Lord. So we're working still in the filing process and not knowing what's going to happen. That's a miracle. Okay, you don't get $650,000 out of the air. That's a miracle, right? And you know that. So.
Yeah, because you could have funded the program yourself.
I could have funded it.
Don't do it until I really fund it. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to walk in faith. Like, I know you want me to do this, and I'll let this kind of just figure itself out. So I got the producers coming in, and Renee told me, well, I have a slot like in September, October, something like that. I'm like, great, just let me know. She said, I don't have any time. Okay. I got the producers coming in, let's get the show figured out, all that kind of stuff. And then I got a call from, then the divorce, so this must have been like maybe before April, maybe March, February, something there. I got the money and got this all going. And so the producers were going to be coming in on in May. The divorce was final because when you file for divorce, the guy said, well, you got this complicated, you got several businesses, this could go on for months.
Because they didn't use a lawyer, they used a judge, because they came together amicably to split everything.
It's all, we at least are at peace with all of that. So when we, so I was like, okay, I got a few more months, so I'll figure it out. I got till September, we'll figure it out and see what happens. And I signed a paper that if I want to cancel, I can cancel it. So I said, call me. And so when I got the call like 5 days after we were filed, that we were divorced, that puts us at the end of May. And I had the producers coming in right around that same time. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, I really felt like I needed to call Joni and say, hey, you need to know I got divorced. Okay, because that's going to affect me here when you show. This was a new lady that showed out of the cross. Like, this was me saying, I really pray, Jesus, you're going to have to, like, whatever Joni says, I will honor. If she says, no, wait a year, wait 5 years, or never again, don't talk, whatever. And so I laid it down. And I called her and said, hey, you seem to know I got divorced, and that's going to affect me having a show. Then just let me know now before I start putting producers to work and start spending all kinds of money. And she was really gracious about it. She was concerned about me. She's like, oh my gosh. And that's when we started to talk about that. And then she said, hey, I want you to go to Hobby's house to make sure you're okay.
Well, I can pick it up here. So, I mean, I have my phone records of when he called in the 1st of June. Because I was sitting there with Kenan and Dawn. And I remember looking at my phone saying, I wonder why he's calling. And I was shocked that when he said he was divorced, because he had never shown any or said anything, and I always spoke very positively about everything. And so I said, oh, I'm so sorry. First thing I said was, I don't know if I told him that conversation or later, I told him about Poppy's house, and he said he would go, and but then he said, there's more to this than you know or understand. And then he sent me, I've got the email, I believe it was like June the 6th or 7th. And he sent me from his book, Married and Alone, that he had written 10 years before. And he said, I'm Andrew, but no one knew that was, and he had other names, pseudonyms of people that he worked with and stuff. So I read that. I shared this with Susie. We were on family vacation, and he actually called me one night when we were in the restaurant. But Susie and I, Susie was more excited than anybody at first. And, you know, prophetic people are the best when they know nothing about the situation. And she's very prophetic. And by the way, I love y'all very much. So hope you don't get angry at some of the stuff.
No,
I
this
share.
is good.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to lay it all out because there's things you don't know and I want you to know.
Good,
But it doesn't diminish my love for you. I hope you know that.
good, yeah.
So anyway, me and her, we had fun. She's like, he could be the one, Noni, I've been praying, blah, blah, blah. And so I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy that conversation with him in June, okay? Because I did. And, but I was going on the premise that he was doing his Instagram, his Facebook, and I told Susie, I was like, he's following me on Instagram. She's like, he's following, you know, and he da-da-da-da, you know, we talked about that. And as girls do, we were giddy. She was as giddy as I was about it. And then she told me something about her mother.
Stop there, because I don't do my Instagram. I don't do my Facebook.
No, I'm going to tell that part. No, see,
I've never seen
Somebody would follow
from Joni ever.
No,
Because when
but we
Jean does
thought,
that, I don't do that.
and I even thought, like, if I sent like a private message, I thank God I did, because his daughter he does not even look at social
I
media.
hate social media as far as
So I didn't know that then. So I'm going on the premise like, oh, he's following me, you know. And so it was just basically me and Susie and Jonathan at that point.
Can I back up a minute?
Sure.
For just a minute? So part of it, y'all correct me if I'm misrepresenting this, part of the belief that the kids and their spouses have is that when you were at Marcus's funeral, when Marcus died, you saw an opportunity. Well, I'm saying.
Yeah, I know that. I know the line exists, but.
Well, so the timing of your divorce was December, started December, January?
No, okay, so let's clarify that. The start of my divorce was in August. Okay, it's when I wrote Lisa a letter and said, I'm gonna file for divorce.
2022.
2021.
2021. I said, I'm gonna file for divorce, and I went to apply for it because when I come back, I'm gonna file. We're done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do it anymore. My heart died. I told you this was happening for the last 6 years. And it died. I can't. Okay, I can't take the life anymore. And I have the books from 10 years ago. If you guys really want to know the pain I was in, okay, that's what it was. So this is August.
Can I show you a video?
You can, but let me finish my conversation.
Okay.
And I'm happy to respond to you covering my wife. I'm happy to respond to covering anybody. And I hope what you learn from that is that I will cover your mom and cover you guys.
I'm sorry.
I hope what you
Cover.
learn from that is that I am committed to cover your mom. Because we're not perfect. Cover you, cover you, cover.
Of course he was covering, it's like all during that time he covered in every book, because he always believed that his marriage
I
was.
never
Well,
got,
saying you have butterflies for someone is not covering them. That is a lie.
okay, but you can make that up, but.
Yeah, I didn't make it up. We have it on video.
But what I'm telling you is that I had no intention of divorcing Lisa 4 years ago or whenever that quote was from. None. So of course I was saying the things that I was going to do in the marriage. I was doing what a man of God should do. Okay? I was doing the right thing, even though I was hurting. So going back to when the divorce actually happened, so I told her I was going to divorce her in August. Okay? And then she asked to work on it. I said, okay. She's never gone to counseling. I've actually been counseling for many years to figure this out. She would never go. She was adamant never to go. Okay? And so I'm like, okay, there's no option to fix it. Okay? So I came back, and then she said, hey, I want to work on this. And she said, I've been intensive with someone in another state. She did a week there, she came back. And from August until February, when I filed, she was trying to work on it. Okay? So it happened. August is here. And then the filing was in February and the divorce was in May. Does that make sense? Okay. So I forget what Marcus.
So the filing was in February.
The filing was in February, right?
Marcus died at the end of
November 30th.
So there was nothing. I took a polygraph. You have it. I showed that I had no intention of nothing. You can make that story up, but it was honestly
What story?
What story
a
you make
story
up?
that I had some kind of intentions to.
Oh, we're not making that
I'm not
story
making
up.
a story. I'm just going to play a video. So this is in 2019. So this would have been when you said your heart had already died. And
No. I
No,
said it
because
was
his
done
heart
in a
died
year.
in 2021, when he wrote her the letter in August of 2021,
21. Okay.
not
So
2019.
in 19, I was still working and trying and doing everything I was doing.
But he wrote the book 10 years previously where he was Andrew, but he told no one that. But when he filed for divorce, he gave her that and said, I'm Andrew. And she read through all that. She knew that that was him.
Did you tell her for all those years that is you? That Andrew is you? Did you tell her all those
No.
years? So you didn't communicate to your wife that your heart is dying and.
Yes, I communicated my heart was dying, but the book was written as a pseudonym, so I didn't tell her that.
He told her the whole marriage from the time, because I've asked many more questions than y'all could ever ask. This is what I do for a living. But, I mean, he told her the whole marriage that this was going on. They talked about it all the
We
time.
talked about it from the first year.
I guess this is not even the first point. Do you want to even go to your first
But I
point?
will say this, that when you play that, every person who's gone through divorce could probably do whatever you're going to record.
It's on Green Room.
I'm sorry, this is a public broadcast
This is
that
a green
you
room.
get to come on.
But listen, everyone who's gone through divorce, prior to being divorced, because the chances of one of you three being divorced statistically could happen. And when one of them happened, and there would be lots of recordings of how it happened. Lots of statements of how much you love
This
me.
isn't a recording. This is you publicly going on national
But
worldwide
marriage.
television.
He asked you, how do you keep the butterflies alive? And you said, after
All
30
right,
years.
so this is being.
Joni did show you this
All right.
because Jonathan played it for her. It's not a surprise.
I guess the butterfly feelings kind of last, I guess, for the first 18 months of maybe a new relationship. Is it because those fade away?
I
and
know,
you
I got
become
30 years and I'm still butterflied as
Yeah.
soon as I was serious.
That's good.
You know, but I think it's just like
Pretty strong
people get out of
statement.
shape
I asked him about
and they
that.
look differently.
Of course I was attracted to Lisa.
That's not what I asked you. I said
You can make
Why
a
don't they-
statement whatever you want.
the butterfly feeling. That's when you're dating your love. That's what she's experiencing
Your heart
right
is
now.
not dying in that process.
That's the opposite of your
But
heart
can we
dying.
just start at point one? Because look at go to the beginning. I think structure matters.
2019, what's your point?
The point is that you said that your heart's been dying for over 10 years.
Things never change.
No, you're saying privately your heart's dying. Publicly, you're saying you have butterflies, which is like the other
It's
extreme.
integrity. It's lies and
So you're
truth.
lying.
It's one thing or the other. Okay, let's start at 1.1.
What do you think you should have said?
Marriage is
about
hard?
marriage Well,
I think you should be honest about he's struggling with his marriage, if anything.
You guys went publicly and said we're going to marriage counseling, we're going to shoot the hair.
Well, I mean, don't
could
lie
say-
saying your marriage
You
is
can say
great. You
marriage,
have
marriage
butterflies
is
in your
hard.
walks
It
in the
goes
room.
ups and downs and you fight for it.
TV after you and Susie had a terrible fight until the whole world.
No, but you don't lie saying, oh, marriage is amazing. I see butterflies every time.
I think we need to start back at point one.
That's your point, right?
No, this, it didn't match up.
I'm not
to what
saying
you
you are. I mean,
This
you're
is what
saying
doesn't
you are.
match
Because you're
up.
saying when privately your heart died, and publicly you're saying you had butterflies when you walked in the
Yeah,
room.
so that doesn't match up.
what I believe is this.
So, I mean, what do you call that?
Well, let me tell you what I call it. And so, when you've been in a marriage like Doug was in, and y'all, I've seen the life cycle of these things for many years, many people going through. He's a minister, public minister on television all the time. I would do that if I was in a horrible situation.
You would lie about your marriage?
I would not uncover my wife. And
Not uncover your wife.
You
You
can
don't
just
have
say
to
it's
lie.
hard,
I
it
would
goes
do
up and
everything I
down.
could to give people hope. And that's what I heard in his.
I'm not going to lose my integrity to give people hope. I'm going to be honest.
Be honest, up and
I
down.
think he'd have lost his integrity if he had uncovered his wife. And so what he was doing was trying to minister to people that were out there. Should he have said exactly what he said? Well, you can prosecute that all you want to. All I'm saying is you've never been in his shoes. And I've walked many people through that situation. And I think he was as nobly as he could trying to fight for his marriage as long as he could, not trying to tell people I was in a horrible marriage and whatever. And so what I get from that statement was he was just trying to make the very best of it. And you can say, well, he was lying. He was representing what he wanted.
Yeah, all we're saying is that it didn't match up to us.
Yeah.
We can start at point one. Can we go to the
It
beginning?
didn't
Yeah,
match
of
up
course.
with reality. But all I'm saying is that you're looking at this through the perspective of he's a liar,
No.
he's an opportunist.
No, we're just asking him a question.
We're asking-
We're not going to prosecute him at all.
We're just pointing out something
The
that's-
conversation we had the other
It's
day.
a question. We're just like,
So
processing,
what's
no
your answer?
labels.
What's your answer?
We just showed you a video and it's your answer, not ours. We're asking you, you said
Your
this.
answer after the explanation he's given.
I leave that up to God. This is what we see. It doesn't match up to us. That's where we leave it.
Kids that answer.
Well, we're just at the beginning. This is not even, we've not even got to point one. We'll present to them once we reach the end. We're not even scratched point one. Let's go to the beginning.
But here's my point in saying this, because I heard everything you guys had said the other day. You begin at the beginning with he's a liar and this is what he said. And then you build the case from there that he is an opportunist.
There's no case to build. This is more about Joni than him. We're not even,
This is more about.
This is a lot about him.
No, it's about both of us.
we have questions for a mother.
I want you to- I'm-
Doug is
I'm
someone-
giving you the perspective. Here's what I'm saying. When I was in the room with you guys the other day, what I wish sometimes was I could just download into your brains the pain that I've witnessed for the last 40 years of ministry in situations like that. And I don't think that you understand it. If you were in a marriage for as long as he was like that, you would be able to empathize with him. And there's no empathy.
I
don't think there's an ounce of empathy.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. We're humble enough to say we have so much to learn. If we could just talk to our mother, because Doug is a man on his own, living his life, not judging his marriage at all.
Well, I want you to talk
Joni
to
trusts
her. He's in
him.
the room and you're going to talk to him too.
Of course we'll talk to him. We're not going to sideline him, but Joni trusts him. If we have a trust relationship with Joni, we can build from there. So that's what we want to work on today.
So, being a counselor, you should know not to have heavy communication of a grieving widow, forming an emotional bond. I mean, you started heavily talking in June, and obviously it's turned into hour-long conversations. Good.
There's other women who, my friends died like before Marcus, like one of my guys in my senior died. Okay. We knew each other for 20 years. She was actually kind of part of the group because for the last 5 or 6 years we stayed there. Me and another man stayed in the house. We went down. Like, we were really close friends. And so I felt the Lord say, call her and just once a month check on make sure she's okay. There was probably another person or two that has happened throughout my life, so it wasn't abnormal to. I actually, before we start talking, I would occasionally text your mom and say, you okay? How's it going? Okay, that was just ministering and caring for someone as a soul. It's not about someone being an object. You're trying to opportunity to how I get this brings my heart. You get how you perceive this. But
Let me speak to
that wasn't abnormal for me.
Let me speak to the whole June thing.
But it didn't turn in once a month. It wasn't once a month. It became
No.
every single day into long prayers. Joni would read me all the texts. I remember it. It was very beautiful and I loved it.
Over the course of the year.
That was not in June, though.
I'm not talking about just June. We're talking about the process of the early months.
Okay.
And it was beautiful and fun. I enjoyed
Let me
it.
respond, please, because you're directing it towards me, and I want to respond. It really makes me so sad that they would have so little confidence in me, that I would be a poor, grieving widow that would have zero discernment or would not understand the position that I'm in with all 40 years of ministry. In June, I can tell you that from his side, he was not even thinking about me in that way. I know that now based on he wasn't doing his social media and conversations we had and stuff. I have all the text messages from June and July. I have everything. And I went back and looked at all of them. And so it wasn't until July the 4th, after he left Poppy's house, that he was going back to Colorado Springs. And I actually had a conversation with Jonathan and
I
Susie
remember it.
on the phone. I was leaving the lake house, and I told them that if God wanted this marriage restored, that would be my desire, if it could be restored, that I would never, ever want to interfere in that. And I told the Lord that. And so in talking to Denise, she told me, she had hopes that they could reconcile. And I told them, that could possibly, be the thing. Susie said,
He's not going back to her. He's coming for you.
Susie said he's not, no, you didn't say that. You said, she said, I don't believe that it's going to work out. And she was very excited about the possibility of us getting together, okay? And by the way, you were like, this has broken my heart about being you, because she was the only one really that I could enjoy the journey with. And she even told me her mother had his name prophetically.
Well, all my mom saw was that she felt like they're talking. And I kept my parents out of this.
But I talked to her.
It is discernment that you were talking to them, not
That's all she
not a
did.
validation of the relationship.
But
It may have changed now, but her mother felt very good about Doug, et cetera.
maybe I'll keep my mom out of it.
Keep her out of it, she's part of it. And there's a lot of other people I got in here that are part of it, and I'm gonna read their names, okay? So, but to somehow peg me in a way that I am what they're saying is just absolutely
No, we're just talking about efficacy, not you.
What do you mean peg you in a way?
not true.
We're not talking about you.
But with the whole thing about the grieving widow and all of that.
That's normal. I mean, that's
Human
every
nature.
human.
That was,
That's not you. That's
I
everyone.
grieved Marcus Lamb for 6 months. Every night I cried, but I got up, and this was the 7th and 8th month we're talking about now, where I said, Lord, I can't. And he's like, I'm putting it back together. There were prophetic words from Hubie Sin. In fact, Hubie Sin told me, do not listen to your children. They are the worst people you can talk to right now. And she said, you've got to follow the Lord, et cetera, et cetera. And so there were a lot of voices along the way that told me, I love my kids, but I'm not going to go to them for advice on my relationships or decisions I make concerning personal relationships. They're 25 to 30 years behind me. I'm going to go with people who are my age, people like you, people like, in fact, I wrote down all these names of the people like Brenda Cassidy, who told me that the Lord's about to bring somebody into your life. This was July. He woke me up 3 days ago and said, the Lord said, don't close your heart and don't be afraid. People like Hubie Sin, people like my former assistant, Sam McNeil, who told me later, after she kind of knew, walking with me through this process, and she's like a little intercessor for me, and she showed me an email that she had written back like in August, where the Lord had showed her that he would be the one, but she didn't show me till many months later, but she showed me the date on it. People like Cheryl Pruitt-Salem, Miss America, who upon hearing about us seeing each other, she said, I was praying and there's not anyone that I could have thought of that could better fit with you in your world. And people like Cindy Murdoch, and they'll say, oh, well, she's my friend, she's on the table. But she's a friend that would wound me with truth, just like I have done with her over the years. And she would tell me, if she didn't feel right about it. People like Cindy Johnson and Darius Johnson, who we've gone on 2-week trips with, where Darius had intense time with him for hours and hours to talk to him and ask him questions. A seasoned pastor who has discernment, who was one of Marcus's best friends, who would be more protective over me than anybody. People like Jimmy Evans that I talked to in July the first time, and then later in July later, people like Karen Evans that I talked to through this process. You all said the same thing. Just wait, because the kids aren't ready. And so if we didn't have kids, we would have been married sooner. But we waited.
How soon do you think you'd have gotten married if you?
It doesn't matter.
I'm just curious.
And so people like Rhonda Davis, who doesn't have a program on Daystar, been a friend over 30 years, who pastors a church, who is one of the closest people to God that I know of, who has prayed and stood with me on through the whole journey. I've told her every detail of stuff they don't know, that the kids don't know. I mean, good and bad, and has 100% felt. Robert and Debbie, Robert told me that Doug is known for his integrity in Colorado Springs. We went and met with him. Joyce Martin, who's called me on multiple occasions, multiple times we talked about it. John Hagee, who went through a similar situation where he divorced his wife. He did not have adultery, but some of the same situation that Doug was in. Couldn't have been nicer. James Robinson, who came to my house and met with Doug without me being there and questioning him, and said at the end of it, I don't know how you stayed in the marriage as long as you did, but he's not, there's no credit being given to that, because you're right, they have no filter, they have no understanding, they have not been in ministry long enough to understand the 40 years that you've been in ministry, dealt with this over and over, that he's dealt with over and over and over. So Sean Bowles, who they hold in highest esteem, had a long conversation with him. He said, I have a friend that went through exactly the same thing and gave his blessing, prayed about it, called me back. Jesse Duplantis, who has met Doug, sat with him, with Lawson Purdue, who pastors a church in Colorado Springs, said, I remember him. And Dean and Kim Hawk, who are his pastors now, we've already had dinner with them on 2 different occasions. Had a conversation. He's going to do the communion at the wedding. And not to mention my immediate family, my cousin David, who's very close to me in family, spent time with Doug. My mother, who is livid over all of this happening right now, because she knows me better than anybody else, because she birthed me. And she trusts my judgment and my discernment with the things of God. My brother, Lane, my sister, my brother-in-law, who was Marcus's brother. I mean, I could go on and on. You know who would be the most upset at this right now? It's Marcus Lamb, because there was no one that had more trust in me and my ability to have discernment and to do what is right than Marcus Lamb, okay? So that's just, this morning the Lord said, write down, because what he told me, he said, no matter what happens, he said, Joni, he said, I want you to enjoy this moment, and I want you to celebrate with the people that I have surrounded you with, that you trust and that you know. And so when they say we don't have peace, I'm not gauging my life on their peace. I'm gauging my life on my peace. And even with all this chaotic, crazy stuff going on, especially with Rebecca, who has gone crazy, the Lord, in the middle of all of it, it's just like this unbelievable peace.
I have to move.
Oh,
We're moving out.
Okay.
there you go.
Oh, there you go.
But the peace
Yeah.
is the same peace, Jimmy,
Oh, come on.
that in the time of trouble that God gives you. It's the same peace when I found out Marcus was having an affair. And this insurmountable peace surrounded me, and the Lord said, this is what I want you to do. So I know they mean well, I know they love me, but they really have no clue as to some of the intricacies and some of the knowledge that I have concerning this that they don't have. So
What were some of those intricacies?
I'm not telling you the details of everything.
No, I'm just curious if they're.
Big things you don't know about the story because you don't trust me.
So we'll
And
get into it then.
because you don't trust the God in me, because you think somehow that you know something that I don't know, and there's things that you don't know. But if you really trusted me, this wouldn't be going on right now. But anyway,
I don't believe that if we have a conversation, it means we don't trust you. We're trying to get there. That's the whole point of relationship.
exactly. And
So
that's
why we're here?
And that's why I told you you're not going to like some of the things I have to say.
Good. I want to hear it.
And I said them, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't.
It didn't bother
It
me.
doesn't negate, it does bother you, it bothers me, because that's just the way we are.
Well, nothing you said bothered. I want to hear confirmations. Why would that bother me?
No, I just want to hear the details that you said that we don't know that are confirmations
But
to you. That
if
the
you don't want to tell us, you
relationship
don't
is
have to tell us.
No,
Details.
when I say details, there are details I know about his story, and we've talked about it, that we're not going to tell the world, because we're not going to.
That's fine.
valid. You don't have to. You don't have to tell the world, but you can just tell me and
Well,
Susie.
you don't have to.
Well,
That's
but you don't have
I'll
to.
go through it with you.
You don't have to.
No, once you could, no, you gotta get this. You gotta get this. Okay. So I'm going to use a different illustration because you can understand that. And I think even regardless, you would understand this. If someone was married to an alcoholic, if someone was married to a sex addict, if someone was married to a heroin addict, and they loved that heroin addict with all their heart, but they kept using it and kept using it, kept using it, destroying their lives, getting their money, wouldn't show love, and they kept destroying them. Your advice would be stay with them no matter what abuse or neglect you're taking. Just stay with them. And that's, I understand that. I used to believe the same thing. I used to believe this when I was in my 30s. Like, unless they put their penis in his ring, you start right. And gosh, I get it. But there is pain that you can't understand until you go through that. And then when that person, even though the heroin addict would say, hey, I want you to stay with me, but I'm not going to change, your advice would be to stay and take the abuse and neglect. And that wouldn't work. And it didn't work.
Was she on heroin?
No. Those are all addictive processes.
Well, there's different levels. There's heroin, and then there's.
No,
Hey,
addiction.
Susie, this is something that
This is
I'm
addiction. Addiction.
I'm trying to understand.
well, I'm trying to
Get to it.
But I'm trying to explain to you in a meeting we had before in this meeting. What Doug is saying is real, and you never.
I believe it. I'm just trying to understand if it was heroin.
But there is pain.
I believe that.
That comes from this relationship where they're not beating you, they're not an alcoholic, they're not a drug addict, but the pain is just as intense as if they were beating you, and other things are true. And so it's something that you don't understand, so you don't empathize with. So Doug jumped out of a marriage that was perfectly good, and he became a predator. This is the narrative.
Started out of marriage. So I coined the phrase intimacy anorexia. We've done shows on it. You can go watch those. You can watch 30, 40 YouTubes on it. You can actually read the book. I got a 45-hour training if you really want to understand it. And then, so if you really want to understand it, I'll give you everything you want to understand intimacy anorexia. Okay, if that's really your heart to understand, it'll take you about 50 hours. Okay, and so that's what I saw in counseling, but it was also in my marriage. Being starved is the same. Someone is addicted to withholding from you. It is exactly the same. Now, you might not believe this, so there's another book I wrote called Partner Betrayal Trauma. And we did research on 144 women who were not liars, who had no motives, okay? And we did research on them before and after. And there were three types of women. Those who experienced infidelity, those who experienced sex addiction, and those who experienced intimacy anorexia. Now, those are three different things, right? And you would expect the scores to be extremely different. I expected the scores to be extremely different. They were within 1% of each other on almost every scale: PTSD, depression, sexual esteem. And you can read the book, okay? And in that, it says that it's not that infidelity is different than starving your spouse. It's exactly the same trauma. Statistically, not my opinion, okay? And when you go through that, you go through a lot of pain, and men do too. I know this was just women, but so it doesn't matter what the addictive process is, the other person is going to suffer. That's the point.